Welcome to Lakers Central, the pregame show. I'm Alex and Vinay, and as you can tell, we have a third party with us today from Late Night Lake Show, our guy, Ricky Barnes. Ricky, what's going on, man?
Hey, living the good life, man. It's another ring ceremony night here in Lakerland, so can't complain. Thanks for having me on.
Vinay, man, opening night. How are you feeling?
We are here, game one of this NBA season, and it's going to be a title defense. But I'm happy we get to see them get their rings tonight. That's kind of a big deal. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the screenshots of what those rings look like. They're pretty nice, and
I
I
haven't
think
seen
it's
it.
really cool that the Lakers are holding off on revealing that banner until fans can be there. And I am guaranteed to be in the building when that happens.
The rings look beautiful. I'm looking at them right now, and if I can figure out how to bring them into the stream, I will, so I can show everybody.
Share
They're,
the screen, pull them up on the web.
they are
I
beautiful,
gotta see
man.
them.
I look 17th ring ceremony, 12th in LA. 6 7 years ago, man. I know all of us kept the faith, but we didn't know when this was going to happen. But it's happening tonight, and even what makes this even better is we're getting our rings in front of the Los Angeles Clippers, who, by the way, aren't getting rings tonight. They're getting PS5s. So I find that very interesting. As Steve Ballmer used to be the CEO of Microsoft, that he's buying them PS5s rather than Xboxes. But hey, I get it. I get it. PS5s over rings. That's what the Clippers are about. So, look, man, shout out to everybody that's joining us in the live stream right now. We appreciate all the feedback we've been getting so far while we've been doing these pre-games and post-games. So, make sure you guys show Ricky some love and follow him on Twitter. You see his handle down there, Mr. Ricky Spanish.
Yeah, do
Give the
that.
guy a follow. Also, check out Late Night Lake Show, his podcast, All Things Lakers. So, Vinay, man, let me start with you. What are you expecting to see tonight out of our Los Angeles Lakers?
I expect them to be. I expect them to look different. I think they'll probably still be a little rusty. 4 preseason games with disjointed lineups. I don't think it's going to look very crisp. Uh, I think we'll see a lot of smiles, a lot of happiness from collecting those rings. Um, I don't know what kind of emotion we'll see, but I think we'll just see a team that's still sort of getting their bearings straight and stuff like that. That'll compete. Um, Anthony Davis had a hell of a game last game, and I would be very, very surprised. No, sorry, I wouldn't be very surprised if he continues that hot shooting. Enjoy everybody getting their rings and look forward to playing another game against the Clippers. Somebody was saying that if we beat the Clippers today, they will never have beaten the Lakers in the year 2020 or something like that. The Lakers will be undefeated against them, so that'd be kind of cool too.
Well, before I throw it to Ricky, Ricky has a fan in our chat, so let me bring it up.
Yeah.
Kevin Marino, man, he just watched your show. Ricky said it was dope. People should check it out. Yes, check out the
Yeah,
boy Ricky show.
appreciate you, Kevin. All under the
Yeah,
crossover network family, so there is no, hop all over from one show to the other. We got the whole block of time for y'all, so we'll take care of
Yeah,
y'all here.
it's Alex has this thing set up like a radio network practically. He's just got show after show set up, one pregame leading to the next pregame. Boom, you watch you watch the game, then you come right back for the postgame, and you just get good quality Laker coverage and good stuff from people who actually watch the game. No, nobody's sitting there with their hot takes pushing out nonsense. And the best part of the times I've jumped on Ricky's podcast, or sorry, not his podcast, but his show, is the jokes and the slander. There is an unlimited amount. So Ricky is a
See?
pro at that.
Just different types of programming, right? We come
That's
here
right.
when we break it down, right? And I am now the little, spice of flavor of the chaos for the Lakers Central podcast. And when I have my boys over on Late Night Lake Show, right, they ground me and make sure that they are my psychologists when I spew on my crazy opinion. So it works out. Follow the network, follow the family. It's what we do.
Ricky, you're getting all kinds of comments, man. Lando
You
digging
mess
the
with
hoodie.
the hoodie, man. Yep, wait a second. Let me get you over here. Yeah, LateNightLakeShow.com. Go ahead and get your hoodies. Sorry to just do this, but go and get your hoodies, get your merch and stuff like that. LateNightLakeShow.com. Appreciate the love.
Ricky, okay, now that the fans are sucking up to you enough, man, let's move to the actual game. What do
Let's
you
do it.
expect? What are you expecting tonight, man?
Yeah, I mean, what I expect tonight is a Lakers victory and the actual cement going over the graves of expectations for Lakers fans of the Los Angeles Clippers. I think the Clippers are going to be a formidable team in the Western Conference. I think they're going to have whatever version of home court advantage in their first round matchup. I do not think after tonight the talking heads on TV, people in the podcast world, even people on the streets of twitter.com are going to think that the Clippers are still in the same breath as the Los Angeles Lakers. I think we're going to see tonight that two teams are going to look head and shoulders above the rest of the field, even after, only a handful of teams playing. The Nets are handling their business as everyone expected, but I think the Lakers are also going to not only celebrate a championship in front of, their cross room rivals, but they're also going to make it pretty known after sweeping them in the preseason that they are no longer going to be considered a rival of the Los Angeles Lakers. So that's what I expect. Big things of the Lakers. No big deal, right?
You know what? When you get those rings on championship night, sometimes there can be a bit of a malaise, and guys can kind of play beneath their talent levels. But I expect the Lakers to come out, get those rings, and beat the Clippers, and just send a message, man. I mean, there are already people picking the Clippers again, even though most sane people are picking the Lakers this time. But also, Genie is not going to unveil the banner tonight. They're going to cover it up and wait until fans are allowed to be in the arena to unveil the actual banner, which is Jeannie Buss. I think she's the best NBA owner, although there was a list circulating that did not have her ranked as one of the top 5 owners, which is uh, do either one of you all want to touch on that thing right there, that she's not getting the respect?
Well, what is the point? What is the point of this stupid list? Who's the best billionaire in the NBA? What is that? What we just counted right there? What has Steve Ballmer done for the Clippers besides them mortgaging the next 97 years of their life to Paul George? What do you want me to give him a gold star for? Good Lord, what are these rankings about? Let's pick our most influential person that can rule the world today and just give them the glory and honor. Who cares? What the hell? What did his team do? Never touch a Western Conference Finals appearance. What did his two stars at $1 bazillion do? They threw ball off the backboard in the fourth. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I think he gets a little bit of praise, a lot of praise for doing the blitzkrieg marketing and stuff like that last year and really going all in on it. But I'm kind of surprised that Clipper fans just take it as at face value, because Sterling was a terrible dude. Just as a person, he was a terrible person. But he did also spend money. He did try to keep Chris Paul. He did try to build a team that was good enough. But obviously they fell short multiple times on their way there. There were times where the Clippers were the favorite to get to the Western Conference Finals, and even sometimes where they could have potentially been a top 3 favorite in the West to get to the finals on the Western side. So it's that narrative of them being him being a good owner because they're competitive now, it just doesn't make any sense. It's not like Kawhi was available when Sterling was there, or PG was available like that when Sterling was there. So Sterling sucked as a person for sure, and he was cheap for a long period of time, but that whole Lob City era, he was spending money to try and make that team better. They just couldn't get it together. So I'm not going to say that, but as it relates to Genie, I don't know, man. I don't know, how it's crazy that the same media that was saying that this was a dysfunctionally run team is the same media that we kind of knew, right? As Laker fans, last year when it came to Defensive Player of the Year, when it came to MVP, we knew that it was going to go to Giannis. There's no way LeBron was going to get it. There was no way Anthony Davis was going to get it. Because to do that would be basically all these media folks eating crow saying, "Oh yeah, we were wrong. Anthony Davis is the best player in the league." They're doing it now because it's a whole brand new season and they don't have to stick to whatever their takes were at the beginning of the season. So I think that's why you get nonsense like this. They've already put so much equity into whoever they want them to be and trying to speak them into existence that that's what they're going to say. But I'm still surprised. Jeannie's the best owner in the league. I mean, everybody says that they love her. So, and she doesn't seem apprehensive about, breaking the bank. Sure, did she place a little bit of trust in her brother, who was originally supposed to be given the original shot to take care of the Lakers? I mean, yeah, that's her brother. So, but as soon as, she gave him his chance and he couldn't get it together, they were like, all right, it's time to get you out of here. And she wasn't playing around about it. So, now the Lakers are champions. So I don't know how you don't put her on the top. You don't put her top 3 on a list or whatever it was that was put out there. But, it is what it is.
So let's get to the business at hand, fellas. We've got questions flying in already, so I want to get you guys' opinion. And these questions are around the starting lineup. So our guy Ray, he wants to know, hey Ray, thanks for the comment. We appreciate it. How do we feel about Schröder starting? And Ricky, what do you think, man? You think Schröder starts tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Brad Turner is saying his sources are telling him that Schroeder is starting. And honestly, after his introductory press conference, that seemed like, at least to me, a foregone conclusion that he was going to make his way to the starting lineup. A guy in his contract year saying that his intentions were to start and that him and his agent made it clear to the Lakers before the trade was consummated that we want to start and we intend on being a starter. Okay. All right, cool. I hope, that means that, if LeBron's going to the bench a little bit sooner and your overlap of minutes with him is a little bit less. But if Dennis, the goal is to start, you're going to get your wish. And, Wesley Matthews took that haircut of payday to come and play for the Lakers. And, it's at the beginning, the thought was he was thinking about starting because he was going to take that haircut as the sacrifice trade-off. Not so much if Schroeder's now starting, and we'll see if KCP is the 2 guard. But, it's one of those things where, it's rich people problems. Right. We're not begging and we're not hurting for a starting point guard in any capacity right now. So off the bench, starting. Are you guys happy? That's all that matters to me.
Vinay, what do you think, man? You think we see Schröder starting tonight?
Yeah, so I think the early reports have been that he is going to be the starter. I don't know if that's confirmed, but if it is, I think that's fine. If you guys remember, like the Clippers like to like full court press LeBron with Pat Beverly and stuff like that because they don't want to put Kawhi or Paul George on LeBron early in the game. So they usually guard him with Pat. Mm-hmm. So now with Schroeder on the court, they're not going to put Kawhi or Kawhi or Paul George on Schroeder because that doesn't really make any sense. So now Pat has to guard Schroeder and stuff like that. So that should allow LeBron to get loose a little bit early. And I think we talked about it before, Alex, Schroeder's probably the guy of all the guys that I've watched, the new guys that I've watched, that needs the most time kind of integrating with this roster because of his style of play, a little bit more ball dominant than a guy like Marc Gasol, than a guy like Wes Matthews, or even like, Taylor Horton Tucker. So with that being the case, like it's a good time to do it. And I would say the other thing is if it looks really bad, Vogel won't be afraid to pull it. And we've seen in the preseason also, which I think he may do today, he may come out with a completely different starting lineup in the second half, depending on how the game is going. So I wouldn't sweat it too much. If defense is a problem, he may go with the KCP Wes Matthews backcourt in the second half, just to give that some more reps too as well. So I think it's fine. We have to see what he looks like. We can't just like ease him in. Like the Clippers are going to be like some of the toughest competition that we're going to face in a pretty stacked West. So might as well.
Yeah, I don't think him starting one way or another means a whole lot. I think it's all about how many minutes does he play next to LeBron, how many minutes does he have an opportunity to kind of lead that second unit. I think that's what's most important. And it's early. It's game one. Vogel's got to go through the motions and figure out what guys fit best with each other. So that's what I expect. And we were going to get questions about Taylor Horton Tucker, THT. Hey, David, thanks for the comment, man. Over under 8 minutes for Taylor Horton Tucker tonight. What do you think, Vinay?
I'm taking the over on that. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays like 15 to 20 minutes game tonight.
What do you think, Ricky?
Yeah, I floated this comparison And I think Lakers fans should expect similar to a Shannon Brown role of THT going into this year. Shannon Brown played a little bit over 18 minutes a game during the regular season. Then it dropped down to about a little over 10 for the playoffs in his two and some change years with the Lakers. I definitely think if the name of the game in this 72 days off, in between season marathon is preserving LeBron James's body, that means get all the ball handlers and all the playmakers all the minutes that they can afford, especially early on in the year. So you should expect some THT featuring, especially early on in the year. So I would take the over.
I think he plays between 8 and 10 minutes, so I'll take the over. I mean, look, he's played well in the preseason. Why not throw him out there against one of your, the chief contenders in the West and see how he does, assuming the situation makes sense. But I think that as good as he looked in the preseason, he's going to play. I would imagine that the Lakers will have a little bit of extra minutes to go around because I don't think LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to dominate minutes on game one. So there'll be some minutes to go around. Here's a good one from Brian Two Fly. How many connections from Gasol to Kuzma? Now, this is a good one. Vinay, what do you think?
Yeah, so that I'm hoping for like at least two. I don't know what the Lakers. So one of the things that we're going to learn in the regular season that we weren't able to learn in the preseason, and we may not learn until later, is what the Lakers substitution patterns are going to be. I don't know how quickly they'll stagger Gasol out, but I would hope that they try to keep him on the court so Kuzma can be there, because he not only helps a guy like Kuzma off of his cutting, he also helps like Caruso, and he does also help Taylor Horton Tucker to some degree, like when they run those pin down screens and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that it's really hard to tell. I would hope that they get as many connections as possible, because that usually means that Kuzma's going to get some really good looks at the rim, just off the strength of Gasol's passing. But it's okay if he doesn't. Like whenever Kuzma plays next to LeBron and AD, he typically doesn't rack up a whole bunch of numbers. So the way I'm going to really be looking at Kuzma, outside of maybe a couple of easy scores that may come via Gasol or maybe Schroeder or even Montrez, because he's a decent passer, is going to be based on like, is he fitting in like the way that we expect him to? Is he not trying to do too much with the ball in his hands? Is he making clean cuts? Even if he doesn't have a great shooting night, that's not really what I'm looking at. Like I'm looking at it more like, is he making smart decisions? If Kuzma continues to make smart decisions and stay disciplined in the role that the Lakers expect of him, I think the team will be successful. And he's already gotten paid, so he doesn't have to worry about the money. So we'll be good there.
Ricky, his contract looks great compared to some of the other contracts that came out the other day. But what do you think, man? Gasol to Kuz, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Kuz, when I was in high school, we had a first job where you would go door to door selling knives. The company was called Cutco Knives, and that's what I think Kyle Kuzma's nickname is going to have to be this year if he wants to get his points per game up as high as it does. And who is going to be his regional distribution sales manager? Marc Gasol and LeBron James. So, I'm going to have to put it on the over, right? I think that Gasol has clearly shown if you do the right basketball play, he's going to hit you perfectly, right? And I think as Kuz continues to figure out not necessarily who he is in this NBA world, but who he is to this Lakers roster, and that's, a guy that's going to have to get a little ugly with his points and be kind of, a non-ball in my hand scorer if I want to get my numbers up. Perfect. You make sure that your pear knife and that your chef's butcher knife is nice and sharp, Kyle, and Gasol is going to get you the right ingredients to make sure that you have a successful season. So I think it's going to be a nice little connection between the two, and something that Lakers fans should definitely keep their eye out for as it progresses.
Yeah, I agree. Gasol, Vinay and I have talked about this. Mark is going to play that role that I think the Lakers wanted DeMarcus Cousins to play last year, facilitating the offense from the top of the key, finding cutters. And Gasol is certainly a better passer than DeMarcus Cousins. Not that DeMarcus is bad, because DeMarcus is a bad man, particularly when he's healthy. But I think that Marc Gasol is going to be key in probably helping Kuzma get a little more consistent this year, because he's going to be looking for guys to cut for guys to make for him to help make plays with. And so I think that that's a really good look for Kuz. Do either one of you guys know if the starters have been announced for the night yet?
I have not seen. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I usually wait for Trudell to report it, and he has not reported it yet, so I do not know.
Do you think that Kuzma gets the starting nod tonight?
I think they may go with KCP. Yeah, I think they'll try to go with somebody who's they'll try to do it like with a little bit more familiarity. You can't have too many new guys that start off together with him. So I think KCP is like the right guy to put there. But I think again they'll stagger in and out and stuff like that. I don't know actually. I wouldn't be surprised if Wes starts also, just because they kind of run all the same sets for Wes, the down screens and the cuts and all that kind of stuff too as well. So I don't know. I mean, this may be a season where we go through like the first 10 games and we're like, I don't know who the starter is,
right?
Because they're just mixing stuff up. So, but I feel like KCP probably has earned that, equity for himself after his play last season.
I was thinking, I wonder if West starts or do they mirror his minutes as much as possible with Kawhi's, considering how well he played Kawhi last year. Ricky, what do you think we see out of Anthony Davis this year, man? There are some people picking him for MVP. He certainly has the talent and the ability, but it is extremely hard to get MVPs with LeBron on your team. Almost like when Shaq and Kobe were both kind of in their primes. People don't want to vote for those guys when they play together, but what do you think we see this season out of Anthony Davis? Do we at least get Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, I think that's probably the reason why Lakers fans that understood the impact that AD had last year on the defensive end were so ticked off that he wasn't Defensive Player of the Year. It's because of the reason you just said, and that, one, when you're playing the LeBron James, your credit is going to come down a couple of notches. Two, when you play for the Los Angeles Lakers, the credit that you get with the folks that are actually voting, right, it comes down a couple of notches too. So, I mean, LeBron, for all intents and purposes, is the reigning finals MVP. No one's even considering him being MVP of the season because it's just not something that anyone's expecting because of the rest LeBron's going to get and that the Lakers may not be the number one seed. So when we talk about Anthony Davis, he's got to jump the hurdle of being, in the eye of the casual voter, more impactful than LeBron, and then you put him up against the field. I think, long story short, it's going to be hard for a Laker coming off of the championship to get the due respect, the damn respect, as LeBron says, that they deserve. So, no, I don't expect an MVP season with the award at the end of the year for AD. Do I expect an MVP impact? Yeah, damn Skippy. And unfortunately for y'all, the Lakers just got two of those guys that have MVP impact on the team.
Yeah, I think he's going to have MVP impact. I mean, he would have to have an otherworldly season, I think, for the media to consider him for MVP, and he's not going to have an otherworldly season for the Lakers to win a championship again.
Exactly.
As long as him and LeBron are as good as they were last year, and maybe they don't even have to be that good because this team is so much deeper than last year's roster. So, again, there are some people picking Giannis to win 3 in a row. I just don't see that happen. Obviously, Luka is a popular pick, so there's other guys out there that I think that are kind of by themselves, so to speak, on teams that would likely get the nod over him. Let me throw a
Alex,
couple
I'll say
Sure.
this, boys. Since I'm on the Lakers Central podcast, hopefully, we'll do this more for our pregame shows. I'm just going to put it out there, right? And we'll hold me to this as we develop across the year. If Giannis Antetokounmpo wins a third straight MVP award,
no way.
I will drive up to Milwaukee, stand outside of the arena, and y'all know I'm in Chicago. I am not. That is 60 minutes away. Stand outside of the arena and say that the NBA is rigged. I've seen it. Whatever Aisha Curry's word-for-word quote was after that finals game, I'm going to write that on a cardboard box and stand outside of the Bucks arena because there is no way on this planet that Kobe Bean Bryant was deserving of one MVP award, and y'all about to give the man that can't hit a 3-point shot unless if his soul, his third finals MVP, and has not even sniffed the NBA finals. I'm just, just so we know when we have it on tape, that's what I'm going to do if that happens. So
I think there's 3 in a row. Bird is the last person to get 3 in a row, right? Did Bird get 3 in a row? No.
I think
did he?
I thought he did. Yeah, in the mid '80s.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to get it. There's going to be a lot of voter fatigue. Like enough is enough. Like you've watched him do it twice and then get bounced early. So
who's tired? Who's tired besides the fans of Giannis getting this award, dog? Like, if you want to talk about the voters, it's still 9-part documentary on how Giannis was drafted. What? Who watches that outside of the state of Wisconsin? Who cares? So if you as far as voter fatigue, I think they're trying to wring out this Giannis train as the face of the NBA as far as it goes until he doesn't make the finals again, and then they'll have to call, all right, maybe we have to pivot.
Well, what I'm going to try and do is bring in some images of the rings, and if I fail, we'll go to the next question. So let me see if I can bring this in. All right. It didn't work. So we'll go to the next question until I can figure out how to bring in some images of the rings. Let's bring this. Now, I can't even pronounce this, so I'm not going to try. But do you guys think the game gets chippy tonight?
You love me. That's the name. You love me.
Look at you. Look at you. You know what?
Gamer.
It must be because you're a few years younger than me. You damn millennials. It must be you can understand what that says because I can't.
And using numbers and symbols in your
right,
games.
Exactly, dog. You want to see? So is the game gonna get chippy? I'll kick it off to you to answer first. First game of the season. I said on my show that the preseason that the Clippers looked a little bit like neutered Pomeranians on the court. So you tell me if you think it's gonna get chippy.
I don't think so. I mean, Pat Bev is gonna bark, but I mean
that's how I was gonna say.
That it'll be a lot of that. But Kawhi doesn't really get chippy. Paul George doesn't either. So what tough guy is on the roster? Like there's Marcus, but he's not playing tonight. Who's on the roster that's gonna mix it up? I don't know. Yeah,
no Marcus. The only guy that I can think of is Pat, who would probably try to mix it up like that. I think they'll play hard. I think they'll play tough. They'll probably try and take it personally that the Lakers are getting their rings right in front of them and stuff like that. But, we talked about this before, Alex, like whatever that aura, that defensive aura or whatever that fear that they were putting in other teams, like, oh, watch out, this defensive team is showing up. Nobody's buying that anymore. So now we already, that's already been tested and we already seen what happens when, when your feet are put to the fire. So, will it get chippy? Maybe for a few moments here and there, but I just don't see it. Actually, I'm curious to see the energy from our guys. I want to see what Montrez's energy looks like. He's been pretty energetic. And then the fact that Montrez saw Luke Kennard get $16 million and they told him that they didn't even want to sign him or they didn't want to bring him back at whatever the number he was. And the fact that he tweeted about it, I was like, that's interesting. I wonder if Montrez is going to try and send a message tonight. So I'm curious to see that.
I think real quick for the fans out there, I got a prediction. The Lakers are only going to get chippy with 2 teams this year. The first team we just saw, the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, Rondo's not on the team, so him and Chris Paul dynamic's not going to be there. But you look at the other guys on the roster, Devin Booker seems to always have a stick up his behind in certain matchups. So look for that team in the Lakers to get into a little bit of fisticuffs, not really NBA fisticuffs with each other. And then, right, I'm interested, to see how, those Brooklyn matchups go down, especially with Brooklyn's, supporting cast. Because I'm sure Katie and Kyrie are going to keep their cool, but, in the locker room, it's going to be a bigger deal than what the stars let off. So just those little back and forth between those 2 teams I'd be interested in. Throw the Nuggets in as a wild card, as feeling some type of way about getting bounced in that fashion. So, but Clippers, no, like I said, you can't be mad. You can't be aggressive when you got a white cone over your head from getting neutered about the playoffs from being up 3-1. They don't have the testosterone at this time to get into a fight, in my opinion.
Nah, look, if the Clippers were smart, they would go more under the radar this season and not try to focus completely on the Lakers and the whole we over me and just the campaign they waged last year was so obviously pointed at the Lakers and is that I think that they lost
Yeah.
sight of the other good teams and I think you saw that happen when they played Denver. Denver punched them in the mouth and the Clippers had what 3 chances to close them out and they
Yeah.
couldn't do it and they were up double digits in each one of those games. So as far as I'm concerned, before you get chippy with the Lakers, you need to worry about some of the other teams that you couldn't even get past before you talk about us. So, and I don't think. I mean, look, the Nets do look good tonight, but I'm not even worried about them. I think with a team like that, there may be some chippiness just because of Kyrie's comments and some other things. But honestly, man, it's weird. These teams don't get chippy the way they used to. I mean, I know you guys know that. It's not. Even though you might have seen like there are pictures and video of Magic and Isaiah Thomas kissing before games. Detroit and LA still got physical. You don't have that these days. It's just a different era.
Yeah, I don't. I think for the Lakers too, it's just they know who they are. They know when they need to turn it up, when they need to turn it up. Last season, that was the most annoying thing that we kept hearing all last season was, the Lakers don't have dogs on their team and nonsense like that, which is just, basically we don't have guys that are willing to muck it up and stuff like that. When we did, the problem was that we kept drawing a bunch of fouls for the stuff that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So when Dwight Howard decided to start getting physical with guys, or Anthony Davis does,
Yep.
or if Rondo wanted to get frisky with somebody on the court, like then we would get foul calls, we get suspended, and all that kind of stuff. So we don't get to be dogs the same way that everybody else does because there's a lot of attention that the Lakers get when they start getting real physical with teams. Caruso was another guy who was he was always scrapping it up with like whoever the best offensive player was on the other team. So like, I don't think they care about that this year. I think they knew what they were going to be last season, and I think them winning a championship last season probably makes them feel like they know what their identity is this season.
Right.
Like we're not just gonna be cool with, and for what it's worth, we definitely got guys this season in Gasol, Montrez, Dennis, Wes. Like if you want to get chippy. We don't have guys that are, our guys are more than happy to scrap it up if need be. So, but it doesn't seem like the Lakers are the instigators the majority of the times, even though they probably are to some degree. But, this team knows its identity. I think they'll be good to go.
Shout out to Wayman Beavers for this comment. Who do you guys think is the X factor tonight and why? Ricky, do you think there's an X factor on the Lakers tonight, or do you think we just blow the Clippers out by 20?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at X factors and with a roster like this because I think it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts with this Lakers team. I think the starters are going to have an impact and be overwhelming, right? And then the first rotation, which will still be a mix of starters and bench players, it's going to be, either the AD show or the Schröder and AD show. So if I had to just pick a name that will probably be the hypest for game one of the NBA season, it's Montrezl Harrell. And I think that he has in his mind more to prove, as V just eloquently said, when looking at the paychecks that went around in Clippers land the past week and a half, right? And to see that not only that they didn't bring him back, they told him they did not intend on bringing him back. You feel some type of way, right? So if you feel some type of way, I think that you try a little bit harder to make the person that broke up with you, for all intents and purposes, pay. So tonight is going to be Trez. I think we're going to see a lot of features for him once he checks into the game, like you saw in the first preseason game. And hopefully the man has a great day, and those floaters and those running shots around the rim are knocking down for him.
Vinay, who do you think is an X factor for the Lakers tonight?
Yeah, I actually go with probably what Ricky was mentioning. I think Montrez off the bench may be the X factor just because he has so much to he has the biggest chip on his shoulder in terms of this matchup specifically. And I think in the first two preseason games, he was getting matched up against Zubac he was getting matched up against Zubac and Kabengele, which is their third center. and he was having a little bit of trouble because they're taller than him. They're big bodies. Just to know if the Clippers are going to do the same thing. Are they starting Ibaka tonight as opposed to Zubac? And if they're, I think I forgot what they announced. If they are, if they're not, but if they're starting Zubac, I'll be curious to see how that matchup looks. Like Montrez was hitting a couple jumpers. He was, colliding with guys. He was setting up. The cool part that is that he was actually setting up a lot of passes out of the high post. So he'd bring Zubac out of the paint, and then he would set up, like I think on 1 or 2 plays, he set up Kuz for a cut on a layup and a couple other guys. So I'm just curious to see how all that works out. I would say outside of Montrez, if I had to pick somebody different, somebody else, I would say it's Dennis. I'm very, very curious to see how Dennis how Dennis operates against the Clippers, because like one of the things that we had a trouble with in the regular season in this matchup specifically was when Rondo was in the game, because of his lack of scoring ability. It was very problematic for the Lakers because the Clippers would try to roll out a defensive lineup with like one scorer, like Paul George or something like that, and they were playing well enough on offense but really good on defense, where the Lakers would keep losing their leads in the process. And then by the time the game was tied, Kawhi would come back into the game, and Pat Bev would come back into the game and stuff like that. So I want to see what sort of difference Dennis makes. But at the same time, Dennis needs some time to integrate with our guys. So, will all those turnovers that he had in that very, very first preseason game, will he be able to cut down on some of that sort of stuff this game, that kind of stuff? Those are the small things that we'll watch. I mean, win or lose, it's not going to matter. If we win, it'll be great because Lakers Twitter is just going to go off again on the Clippers like we have for like the past 90 days. Or it seems like all of NBA Twitter kind of participates in that activity. But those are the kind of small things I'll be curious to see. What does Montrez look like in isolation? Are Dennis's passes, like, are they nice crispy passes that are hitting guys in their hands in stride, that kind of stuff?
So you mentioned Dennis, and we're getting a bunch of questions about him. Shout out to Sonic Fighter 25, who was in our last live stream, I believe. So we appreciate you coming back. I guess that means we're doing something right. But he wants to, ask, and I'll start with either one of you guys. Just are either one of you not a fan of Dennis starting at all, or have you just not seen enough yet?
For me personally, I haven't seen enough yet. I can definitely see how it'll work, and that I'll just since we're shouting out some folks, this also helps kind of address Beth or her question about how we expect Schroeder to look tonight with the starters still feeling him out. Like, I think one of the things that we'll sort of learn from this process and stuff like that is whether he is actually a good fit next to Braun and AD, and specifically what sort of sets and what sort of designed action are the Lakers trying to run for him? Is it just going to be Dennis bringing the ball up the court and just setting up Braun and AD over and over again because nobody can stop them? Is it him running pick and roll? What does it look like? I think based on what we learned from these next couple of games, the Lakers don't have an easy start to the season. They've got the Clippers and they've got the best offense from last season, which is the Mavs. So that offense is going to have to get going. And so we know that last season the Lakers notoriously were not good starters at the beginning of games, at least on the offensive end. And so seeing that difference will be important. We want to be able to start our games off with a better offensive flow and stuff like that. And Dennis is supposed to be part of that process. So that's the way that we're kind of measuring his success to some degree.
Ricky, are you not a fan of Dennis starting, or have you not seen enough yet?
My only concern, I am notorious for talking out of both sides of my mouth when explaining situations. So I'll try to stay one-sided with this. Dennis Schroeder starting with LeBron James alleviates responsibility on LeBron James as far as ball handling and playmaking, right? Mm-hmm. Does it leave a little bit of a playmaking and ball handling hole in the second unit? Sure, but that's all up to Frankie Smokes and his rotation style, which we know he all likes to get a little cavalier with as he tries to figure out what's best for the team. I initially thought Schroeder would be perfect for that second unit and what he would bring as far as that next level of ownership of the offense once LeBron James go to the bench that we saw Rondo quasi fill when he wasn't, regular season Rondo. I just struggle with really having too many issues with Schroeder starting when I know that it's relative to how a coach slices up the rotate. The annoyance with it, right? It seems like a perfect fit, and now you're throwing that perfect fit into the starting rotation. It seems like you're above 100% in one lineup, and now under 100% in another. But these guys have personalities and feelings and agendas and goals, and his is starting. So we'll do it to start the year until the data and the results on court prove that it's either a good idea or a bad idea. So to V's point, wait it out. Just give it 2 weeks, please.
Now, do you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
what
we
the
do.
hell does that mean?
That is the triangle, as in triangle offense. Because I heard today, I heard today that to You Love Me 3, or You Love Me, thanks for the comment. You brought this up and I had forgotten about it. The Clippers are going to run the triangle offense for Kawhi. I did hear that today. Skip Bayless, whether I don't know how much you believe him or not, but he said Ty Lue has said they will run a little bit more of the triangle for Kawhi to get into the same spots that Jordan and Kobe got into. I think the triangle offense is the greatest offense of all time. 11 rings, it's hard to argue with it. But what do you think? Do either one of you guys think that the Clippers are going to run the triangle, and will it be successful in helping Kawhi get to the spots that he wants to get to in the mid-range?
You
So
take it away.
yeah, so the triangle offense is a very good offense. But there's also a reason why that offense was only successful when you had generational superstars within that offense, like Michael Jordan, like Kobe Bryant, like Shaquille O'Neal. And even though he wasn't like an offensive super threat, a guy like Scottie Pippen. The number one thing, like, and we don't say this about Shaq as much, but it is actually very true about him, is that the triangle offense is a set style offense that has differing reads based on how the defense is playing you. So if the defense is trying to take away a certain part of the court, you adjust by going the other way. If the defense, and if every single time you come down the court and you run the same style offense, there's a different defensive coverage. There's a different way to find the open guy out of the triangle offense to get you the shot you want. However, the only way that works is if the person who you're setting that offense or who's part of that triangle is smart enough to know what direction they need to go in. Now, the number one issue for the Clippers has been that they don't have a guy on the court who directs their offense. That was something that Clipper fans themselves had said. We don't have a playmaking guard to help dictate which way the offense is supposed to go. And, instead, all we're doing is just taking turns, and Paul George goes isolation, Kawhi goes isolation, Marcus Morris goes isolation. So if you're going to run a triangle offense to get Kawhi shots at the spots that he wants, that's great. But at the same time, he wasn't having a problem getting to his spots to begin with. Even when it was out of isolation or out of pick and roll and stuff like that, he would get to the free throw line, the little corner part of the free throw line that he likes to shoot his shots from. He would get into the painted area and get those, use the pump fake and stuff like that to get all the shots that he wanted to. So that wasn't a problem for Kawhi to begin with. So I think it's good that they're trying to run a more structured offense, because I don't think the LA Fitness 24-hour fitness style offense works in the NBA. But I don't know. But the only way that offense works is if you have guys that make high level reads. So if you're going to run it with Kawhi, and you're going to run it with Paul George, and you're going to run it with Marcus Morris, or whoever you end up running it with, those guys, all three of those guys that are involved in that offense have to make high level reads. Is there anything that we've learned from this past season and this is a question that, it's obviously we don't know if Laker fans would answer, if Clipper fans can answer. Is there anything that we know about that team that makes us think that their core guys, right, or even their core duo of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, are the type of guys to make high level reads, right? Like, we know we have that with LeBron. Okay, we know LeBron's probably the smartest player in the NBA. He makes high level reads. We know Anthony Davis, that's something that he has to work on, but he showed improvements over the course of the season. But Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, for the tremendous talents they are, they're pure scorers. They like to score. That is their calling card. Their calling card is not setting their teammates up. Their calling card is not like Chris Paul dribbling the ball around, changing the geometry of the court to find a better advantage. LeBron does that. Rondo does that. Chris Paul does that. Kyrie Irving will do that. Steph Curry will do that.
Steve Nash used to do that.
Steve Nash does that. Even Luka Doncic does that. To be able to dictate where everybody is going to be on the offense, and that requires high level skill, high level playmaking, and the triangle offense requires guys like that. We always say that all Kobe had to do is come down and have to score and take his contested jump shots or whatever it is. But Kobe was a high level read maker. He used to know when he used to go. All the stuff about that famous highlight of Kobe driving to the rim, and then he does that, he gets a big jump on him, and he throws that kind of side pass to Shaq. If you rewatch that play, Kobe doesn't have to make that play to Shaq. Kobe could have always taken that layup. He could have pulled up for a jumper. He could have used a floater. He could have done anything he wanted. He would have gotten the bucket. But making the high level play, because on the next play the defense is going to be like, oh well, we can't leave Shaq because Kobe's just going to set him up. Those kinds of things are what the triangle offense allows, but you have to have guys that are willing to do it. And I don't know when Ty Lue says that we're running a triangle offense to get Kawhi Leonard more, get him to the spots that he wants. I didn't see that being a problem last year. I think the problem was that you guys didn't have any structure to your offense, and everybody was just taking turns, and that's the problem. And so, it may help them, it may not help them. But I think ultimately it's going to come down to the fact that they have guys whose first instinct is always to score. Right. And unless there's an obvious pass situation, like a guy wide open underneath the rim or a guy wide open in the corner, and it's an easy direct pass to that player, I don't know if they have the guys that kind of can make that sort of stuff happen outside of designed action. So that's my concern with them, as it relates to this season. And so, good luck with the triangle offense. That's not an easy offense.
No.
So, and the only guy that's ever successfully run it is Phil Jackson. So that's all I have to say about that.
You don't implement the triangle in a shortened off season. That takes time.
Yeah.
And usually you need players who have run the triangle, which is why Phil Jackson brought in guys like Ron Harper from the Bulls days to the Lakers, because he knew the triangle. Ricky, let me ask you. Does the triangle help the Clippers, who their duo, Paul George and Kawhi, shot 10 for 38 in Game 7 against Denver? Does the triangle help that duo shoot any better and get to their spots?
I mean, to V's point, I don't even think it's about Kawhi and Paul George getting their shots and their spots. I think it will help Kawhi, yes, and if you put Paul George in Kawhi's position in the triangle, will it help Paul George score? Yes. That hasn't been their issue. Kawhi averaged the most in his career assists last year. Right. But as a career, Kawhi averages under 3 assists a game.
That's right.
Paul George is a 4 assist a game guy for his career. Right. Last year, Paul George has the same amount of assist ratio as Kawhi Leonard. So I don't know if they can get better at distributing the basketball to their teammates when they both hit career highs, right? How do you judge a player? You don't do it by their best. You don't do it by their worst. You do it by their average, right? I'm not sure that this triangle offense is going to lend itself to increasing the overall efficiency of the basketball team. If Ty Lue's point is saying, hey, I saw Kobe be an MVP in the triangle offense. We won championships. I was on that roster. Let's just do a 1-for-1 real quick. That should work out, right? No, for the reasons you guys just listed. Kobe's reads and being able to understand how the flow of an offense against the defense is setting up and what's going to happen after what you do. That is how you actually understand at a cerebral level the game of basketball. I don't know if Paul George has that in his wherewithal. He passes it to Patrick Beverly. What the hell are you everybody expecting? Patrick Beverly to pass the ball. So, the Lakers in these teams, in these lineups, Derek Fisher was a 3-point shooting threat, right? I don't know if the makeup of these rotations are going to lend itself to it impacting the actual score of the game more than it would just, running Doc Rivers offense that kind of Doc Rivers alluded to this year with the Clippers.
Do you think he's saying that? You think he's saying that because they know his contract extension's up and because he publicly said that he's going to decline his player option because it's a smart thing to do?
That was, if he walks from that's. I mean, why would look? Kawhi is one of those guys. He's dry. He just kind of talks.
Walk.
I don't know, man. I don't know. If they lose this year, you think he sticks around?
Don't never say never. V, you are, and Alex, you are too, like am I. We don't put up with, if you are a person that's accustomed to success, right? And you now are smelling your own shit and thinking that I can take success wherever I want. And Kawhi won a championship in Canada. Right? He has no reason not to think that he can't find success wherever he wants. And then he runs into a wall back-to-back years. It's going to be a conversation between him and Uncle Dennis about, all right, what franchise can we, run over now and, get houses and, different types of extra incentives with them. I don't think Kawhi is going to be too pleased if they don't make the Western Conference Finals again. And now that you have traded your future and now salary cap wise have given Luke Kennard $64 million dollars.
That's crazy.
You're going to be a little handcuffed as far as the options in the future. And like LeBron James has done, if he doesn't see with the talent currently constructed and the future of that franchise lining up where they can actually compete, and you've gotten a no 2 times on your report card, maybe South Beach seems a little bit better than being at home in La La Land.
I just don't see it, man. I think we talked about it, Alex. He seems like he is a clock in and clock out kind of guy. Yeah. I don't think Kawhi cares, man. I think he's gonna try and get max money out of Ballmer. This is just a leverage play, and I wonder if he's doing it because of the lawsuit, like to make it seem like, maybe I won't stay here. And the optics of that sort of thing, like to take some heat off of Ballmer itself. I think he's going to take the mega super whatever the most amount of money he can get, and he's going to retire as a Clipper, man. I think that's what's going to happen.
Him saying good that it's smart for him to opt out. Like, it is smart for him to opt out. So I always appreciate players being honest, but that can't feel good if you're Steve Ballmer and the Clippers, especially after you just lock Paul George in for all that money. You need Kawhi to come back. So I suspect he will be back. But if they lose this year, or not only if they lose, but if they lose in epic fashion, kind of like they did this past season, all things up in the air. We'll see what happens. Let me bring in a couple more questions for you guys, because I can tell you guys are getting a little more animated right now. So let me see what I can find to keep you guys going.
Talking about me, V.
I'm waiting. They should be releasing games at 7, so any moment now we should officially hear what the starting lineup is going to be. So that's what I am waiting for.
So let me ask you guys this.
We just teed up on views too. Shout out to everybody who just jumped in the stream, all 100 of y'all. Damn.
Hey, we got up to about 190 just about so far, so we appreciate everybody who's watching this live. And if they're that late, Ricky, we know what they look like, right?
No, right. Yeah, dude. We got the profile.
So anyway, look, man, Jeff Santos. Shout out to Jeff, man. Vinay, you and I have talked about this, but do you guys think we need another big? And if so, an athletic big? Is that the kind of big you guys would want to see on this roster?
Yeah, I think for sure an athletic big, a long big, like a JaVale McGee size, like Dwight Howard size guy. Like Marc Gasol is a giant, but not an athletic giant. And so it would be good for the Lakers to get somebody like that. There's just, last time we covered that question, I live pulled up the list of all the guys that were available, and there's really nobody available right now. So we're just gonna have to make do with what we have right now, and see how it works. The best way to think of the Lakers center position is it's by platoon. So just like in fantasy football, when you do that running back by committee thing, and you're trying to pick, specific guys, or real NFL teams will use running back by committee sort of situations. That's how the Lakers use their center situation. It's purely situational. It's purely matchup based. And so that's the way that they'll kind of treat it. They'll try and set up guys to be successful. So we may see stretches when Montrez is the guy. We may see stretches where Marc Gasol is the guy. We may also see stretches where Anthony Davis is the guy, but I don't think the Lakers are going to try and use him at center too much if they don't have to. So actually, we may also see situations where Markieff is our small ball center too as well. So the Lakers rolled that out against Houston, and that ended up being pretty successful. So it'll be good to know, good to understand exactly how that works out. Yeah, I'm trying to. They're holding off on the question on the starting lineups, man. Vogel's waiting to the very last moment to let us know.
The Frankie Smoke special. He gonna keep it under wraps until he lets you know. Whip it out on you. Here's the starters. Here you go. I don't know what he gains from it.
Ricky, I thought you would have the starters, man. Don't you have a connection to Rob Pelinka? I thought you would know who the starters were by now.
Yeah, just got off the phone with Lord Pelinka. He said, "Mind your business, Ricky." So I know the starting lineup has not been, divulged. Like V said, I think Mike Trudell will probably be the first words from God's mouth to his ears to Twitter.com. So we'll see. I need to understand though, as far as this Lakers team, right? As we go into this season and we go into expectations. The complacency a bug, and if everything goes right, the center position isn't going to matter, right? We see Kevin Durant playing center for the Brooklyn Nets. Everybody feels better about Anthony Davis playing center for the Lakers than Kevin Durant playing center for the Brooklyn Nets. But at the same time, AD doesn't like playing center. So, if the name of the game is preserving his body and he is still in that mindset of I'm not going to play the biggest man role, is it going to matter? I don't know, maybe 5 games a year per conference when you face the Nuggets, when you face the Trailblazers, right? Maybe having another athletic big man would really tip the scales. But one thing we saw from the Lakers last year out of their bigs, it wasn't, obviously they were bigger than everybody else, but it was their aggressiveness on the offensive and defensive boards that really stood out, in that their willingness to get ugly in fighting for rebounds. Mm-hmm. You don't need height to be a dominant rebounder, right? And I think one thing we're all expecting out of Trez is to be kind of that junkyard dog in the paint and being able to come out with some of those rebounds. We talk about, legends as far as, the non-superstars, V likes to call him Dennis Rodman. But no, I'll digress. I digress on that one. But you see, he's not the huge guy.
Did you see that conversation with Elsie Granderson, the ESPN radio guy? Like, how dare you disrespect Dennis Rodman? I'm not disrespecting Dennis Rodman, bro. Like, the clear superstars were Pippen and Jordan. What are you getting mad about? That's like me, like, I didn't get that. I was just like, it's clearly not disrespect. Well, whatever.
He was a Hall of Famer off rebounds. What do you want to call it? There are guys that check all the boxes for being energizers and amazing defenders and amazing rebounders that make the Hall of Fame. This is the conversation that we're having right now, as far as, do we need a 7-footer, or just a guy that is going to bring that energy? Hell, if LZ Granderson is willing to nail the name to the cross over high energy guys that can just bring down board, I shouldn't be so upset about the Lakers being a little bit smaller when it comes to their front court. So, if Montrell takes care of what his job description should be for this Lakers team, I have no concerns about another big.
Someone we haven't talked about a lot tonight, man? LeBron James. Like, we haven't.
LeBron James.
It is crazy, right? Like, we've been on here now for what, an hour, and we've barely talked about LeBron. So shout out to Rodney Hale for sending us this question. A lot of people think LeBron goes off every opening night, but he really doesn't play well. What do you guys expect from LeBron tonight?
Let me jump in on that one. I think LeBron's gonna be chilling.
I think LeBron's just going to enjoy the fact that he won his 4th championship. I think he's going to enjoy winning it, in the purple and gold. I think there may be a little bit of emotion because if you guys have seen those rings, the inside of those rings has a little Mamba logo, which is super fire, and it's got I think it says "For you, Kobe," or something. It says "Kobe, this is for you," like that. Wow. Like, I think it'll probably be a little emotional for probably a guy like Bron, because he was pretty close to Kobe and stuff like that. And I think I think he's going to be chilling, man. I think they're going to try and win the game, but I won't be surprised if he tries to like turn it up a little bit late. This last season was, because I think the ring ceremony is going on right now. The last season was a pretty crazy season emotionally for this team, and they're still trying to like process that to some degree. So I think we'll see an emotional Braun, or we'll see like a very proud team, a very proud cast of people that are on that court.
I agree, man. Well, I'm looking at the TV behind me. The ring ceremony is going on, so I do not want to deprive you guys from watching that. Thank everybody for jumping into the live stream. I think this is the most we've had at one time in the stream. We had about 209 people in here at one
Oh my
time.
gosh.
Absolutely bonkers, man. So we'll have to do this again. You guys tell Ricky to come back so we can run the 3-man weave again.
I'm trying to. I'm knocking down the door. I'm trying to beat down the door to come join y'all three-headed horsemen. So let's make it happen, y'all. Appreciate you having me.
Vinay, you have anything to say, man, to close out the show?
Enjoy the ring ceremony and enjoy the game. Win or loss, it doesn't matter. We did it, man. This is part of the reward for winning the championship last season. So I'm going to enjoy the game, and I'll see everybody on the timeline and probably in the post game too.
We'll be back for the post game, everybody. When the game goes off, we'll try to get live within 10 minutes. Enjoy the ring ceremony and enjoy this dub we're going to get tonight. So you've been watching or listening to Lakers Central.